Welcome back everybody to another MOTOBOB video where today you join me on a beautiful winter's day at Cheddar Gorge and I'm on this, the CBR500R. Now look, I don't normally cover sports bikes on the channel because I don't really feel like you can show them at their best on the road. But this at 47 horsepower, I thought that probably sounds about right for my riding ability. So did it turn out to be as good a road bike as I expected? Well, in this video we're going to find out. I'll go through each of the main categories in which I review a bike and then at the end I'll give you my verdict. Now let's talk about the engine on this bike, and it won't be completely unfamiliar to you if you watch my videos regularly because recently I reviewed the CB500X. Now like I said in that video, they're not normally my cup of tea in terms of the sound and the character. So it's a 180-degree parallel twin, 470-odd cc, I think, and it makes about 47 horsepower, 43 newton meters of peak torque. Like I said in the video about the CB500X, this 180 crank, not normally my cup of tea. I don't really like the sound and feel of it. But again, like with that bike, it really did grow on me, and I love how it revs up. Torque is strong and makes it very usable, but that bit of reviness up to about 8,500 revs just gives it a bit of lively pep and a bit of fun at the top end. And you've got a great slip assist clutch, so a nice light feel on the lever, a good gearbox, great fuel economy, less of a concern with this bike than the X, but still, you know, not a bad feature to have. It keeps the running costs down. I think the fact that it's the same engine as the X and the CB500F naked and in this sports bike, and it kind of works in all of them, just goes to show how versatile it is. From a handling perspective, this bike's had some decent upgrades for this year. You now get a Showa big piston, separate function upside down fork, so pretty similar to what you get on its bigger sibling, the CBR500R. You also get twin discs at the front now with these two radially mounted 4-pot Nissin calipers and decent tyres as well, Michelin Road 5. So all round, in terms of the handling spec, it's pretty good and it does feel good on the road. Good front end feel, nice and low in its riding position, so you do feel like you can push it through corners. Braking is good too. I mean, I was maybe a little surprised that it doesn't feel as sharp as the CB500X on the initial bite. That bike gets 2-pot Nissin calipers, not radially mounted like this, but this certainly does have more braking power as you get through the stroke and an adjustable lever actually on both bikes, which is a nice feature at this price point. Grip is great as well. I mean, we all know these tyres are good, but we've got a mix of wet and dry roads today to really test them out, and I've felt supremely confident all day on this bike. One thing to flag up though is the weight. I mean, when you look at the competition, stuff like the KTM RC390, the Yamaha R3, yes, they're smaller in capacity and a little bit down on power, but they're quite a bit lighter. Not only does that sap a little bit of the power advantage on this bike, but also the handling. Down at this sort of capacity, you're expecting a lightweight and flickable bike. It's kind of the same story with the 650s as well. The CB650R naked, the CBR650R sports bike, the one up from this, I guess. Both those bikes are about 20 or 30 kilograms heavier than the closest competition. Same case here, and it just means that you are riding a bike that's a little heavier than you might get for your money elsewhere. You know, it's not always a problem on the road. I mean, the CB500X that I was riding the other day, I quite like that it felt like a big bike, both in terms of stature and the weightiness. It gives it a certain comfort. You could say the same here, but if you are doing sportier riding or even thinking of doing the occasional track day on it, and it would be a great bike to learn on, but there are lighter alternatives out there. But I mean, ultimately, this really is a road-focused bike, and you can tell that by the riding position. The seat height is down at 785 mils, so it makes it super accessible to new riders and riders that are a little short in the leg, myself included actually. You know, these clip-on style bars, they do give it that sporty feel at the front end with your elbows in, and you can get tucked in under the fairing, but in order to make sure that you don't have like a super aggressive and uncomfortable riding position, it means dropping the saddle and the pegs a bit so that that rider triangle is canted back a bit and you're not totally over the front. I did a couple of days on the track with California Superbike School recently, and I was on the Ninja 650, a great bike to learn on and leave you to build your confidence. But that's very much the same in the riding position. It looks sporty from the side, but when you get on it, the seat's low just to make it comfortable and usable every day. The thing is, as you build confidence on the track, or if you're a super aggressive rider, you might not be able to get into that tuck that you want to, where you want your bum to be almost back up where the pillion seat is. But I think the majority of miles are going to be done on the road on this, and so really it's the right riding position for the bike. You're sat up just enough to look forward at the traffic and also to get the weight off your wrist. But again, if you're buying it just for track days, there might be better options out there. Now, in terms of tech and features, there really isn't a lot to say, even less than the CB500X, because that gets a 12-volt socket on the dash. This just gets ABS, an inverted LCD display. Heated grips is an option as an accessory, but that's pretty much it. Like I said in that video, you probably want the money that you're spending on a bike at this price point to go into good components and a good engine and good finish, and that's exactly what it's got. Like I say, the 4-pot radially mounted Nissin calipers do a great job of the braking. You get the Showa fork now as well, and the build quality, it just looks absolutely brilliant for a learner bike. In fact, for me, the whole bike is an absolute stunner, and they've really nailed that baby Fireblade look. You'd absolutely be forgiven for mistaking it for the real deal at a distance. Love the front end with those mean looking LED lights, the wavy disc, the new fork, the upside down fork with the gold finish, they both help as well. This accessory tinted screen looks pretty decent as well. Love these little scoops through the tail section, even little touches like the rim tape, and I mean this red finish, it just looks spot on for me. I mean, if you're looking for a learner bike, I guess there's always that feeling that you don't want something that looks like a learner bike or looks inferior, and I think this, it really doesn't feel like a compromise in terms of looks. But like I always say, it's subjective, so let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. Price wise, I mean, it's not the cheapest. We're kind of used to that with Honda now, but you do get that fit and finish, you get the great componentry, and so yeah, I think you'd say it's pretty fair. It's not a bargain, but it's not expensive for the bike you're getting. And it ought to be fairly cheap to run as well. Like I say, fuel economy is good, and I also ran an example quote with a dummy profile with BeMoto, who sponsor the channel, and insurance looks pretty reasonable as well. I think with all that in mind, it's clear that it's a road-focused bike for that A2 license holder, and it's got that aspirational feel to it. It's not the cheapest bike, but you get something that looks the nuts. In fact, it's something that you might want to keep hold of even after you've passed your A2 and you've gone up to a big bike license. You can still have a lot of fun on this bike on the road.